That is the new Volvo XC90. But it's not just a new model for the company. It's not just an all-wheel drive 7-seat player in the SUV market that's already won a few awards. That model represents an $11 billion investment by the company, and it's the first in a string of new models that they say will take them into the future. A future that, not so long ago, wasn't that certain. The Swedes have gone through a sketchy patch in their car-making business. Saab was a casualty of the flailing industry, eventually going out of business. Volvo fared better. For a while though, it too seemed doomed for the trash can of discarded automakers until they were bought by Ford in 1999, who then sold the company to Chinese carmaker Geely in 2009. Since then, things have been on the up, and the XC90 is essentially a relaunching of the brand. So, with a big car that means so much for the brand, you'd think they'd fit an impressive engine, maybe a V8 or a supercharged V6. But they haven't. And the reason for that is that those kinds of engines won't be offered with the XC90. Ever. The reason for that? Efficiency. Not just in terms of fuel consumption and CO2, but in terms of manufacture as well. Volvo's range of 2-litre motors, whether petrol or diesel, will share common underpinnings, allowing them to save development and manufacturing costs. That doesn't mean the future of the company, or the XC90, is locked into mediocre outputs and underwhelming performance. The T8 XC90 puts out 295 kilowatts. Although the output of our diesel test car isn't too bad either. 165 kilowatts, 470 newton meters for a 0 to 100 time of under 8 seconds. Although it really doesn't feel like that. It's like Volvo have spread the torque right across the rev range. So it doesn't have that typical diesel trait of lots of low-down shove and then nothing towards the top end. Instead, you get a steady, albeit fairly unexciting acceleration through a decent chunk of the rev range. In-gear ability is a little less impressive, with downshifts of the 8-speed automatic happening smoothly, but with little in the way of perceived extra power. It doesn't deliver any sort of performance thrills, but offers a smooth drive and a confidence that downplays the car's 2-ton mass. And you do get the impression that this car is more about luxury and looking good above anything else. The new daytime running light design that will feature on all future Volvos is affectionately known by the company as Thor's hammer. And while that may conjure up images of destruction and general violence, it is about as aggressive as this car gets. Probably because the Swedes don't do aggression, they don't do attitude. They just do lots of style and understated class. And this car has got that by the bootload. It takes a massively different approach to the Germans. There's no over-reliance on creases and scallops and cute details, just a clean, uncluttered look that brings across a sense of elegance despite its imposing size. There are definite Volvo trademarks, especially the rear taillights, but the new front end is a fresh approach that is superbly executed. And the exterior isn't even the best looking thing about this car. Press releases for new cars are prone to a bit of hyperbole, making statements that make the car sound as good as possible, which is understandable. In Volvo's case, they said that this was the most luxurious interior they'd ever created. And to be perfectly blunt, this is one of the few times where the reality actually lives up to the hype. It is quite simply brilliant. A few details like the jewel-like finishing on some of the switchgear may not appeal to everyone, but there's no denying that this is a masterclass in car interior design. Where the exterior tones down the Swedishness a little bit, this interior is pure minimalism. That's thanks largely to the driver interface, which takes the form of a tablet-style touchscreen, complete with swipe and pinch gestures. A large number of the car's systems are controlled from the screen, which means that all but the most frequently used functions get their own dedicated buttons. That setup not only gives the XC90 an uncluttered interface, but also means that, like the all-digital instrumentation, there is a definite sense that you're driving a thoroughly modern machine. The XC90 has 7 seats as standard across the range, and for once it's a 3-row setup that offers decent luggage space with all seats in place. The third row of seats will accommodate a human of 1.7 meters or less in relative comfort. An all-wheel drive SUV it might be, but a rock-crawling monster it isn't. After traveling a few hundred kilometers on some superb roads, it's pretty obvious this car enjoys cruising, and it's also pretty easy to hustle through some corners. But one of the downsides to that on-road bias is the 22-inch wheels, which are rather noisy. There was quite a bit of discussion with the Volvo people about that particular aspect, but no matter how they try spin it, excuse the pun, on all but the newest and smoothest of tar surfaces, the noise from the low-profile rubber is intrusive. And that's a pity, because it's really the only thing that's a genuine negative about this car, especially given the thorough refinement of the styling and the interior. There is a lot to like about the new Volvo XC90. It is superbly stylish with a fantastic interior. And although a 2-litre diesel motor might not seem like the most inspired choice for an SUV, it really doesn't disappoint. As a celebration of almost a century of car making and a relaunch of the brand, they really couldn't have done much better. There will never be an XC90 that has a motor bigger than 2 litres, but rather than being a disappointment, our diesel test unit managed the car's bulk adequately. All-wheel traction helps with a confident drive. It's a superb-looking SUV with an interior that's the best in its class. It's just a pity then that the massive wheels impact on the overall refinement of the drive.